Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.
Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me and I hope you enjoy the show.
From life on a farm in rural Australia, where wide open spaces made a young woman yearn to know what was beyond her country town. She moved to the city, became a mother, and found her dream career which took her across the world. But still, something was missing. In her search for love, she traveled far, trusted deeply. She wanted so badly to find someone that she almost lost herself in the process, and learned some hard lessons along the way. Fool Me Twice, a new memoir by Jules Hannaford. Available August 20th on Amazon.
Today I'm here with Tricia Yap. Hi Trish, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm completely honored. It's my first podcast. I'm actually really excited.
Well, you know what? I Googled you and you are all over the media, so I'm your first podcast. That's really amazing. So thanks for coming to meet me today. Trish, can you tell me a bit about yourself and how you came to be in Hong Kong?
Quite simply, I'm a former management consultant that decided to basically follow her dreams and follow passion. I actually came to Hong Kong because, well, effectively as a trailing spouse. I did have a job over here, so that did help things. Randomly landed on the day the global financial crisis hit. Yeah, in 2009.
Oh my God. Were you in the business, in the financial world?
I was in consulting, so it wasn't as badly hit, I think, as the guys in banking and finance. And I was in technology consulting at PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I suppose, as my dad said, you always need an accountant.
If you're good with numbers, become an accountant.
Probably why I had to leave, because I can't really count past 10.
Did you go into the wrong career then, do you think, initially?
I think I went into the career that my parents wanted for me. And it was very much a career that I thought would suit me, because in my thinking when I was a graduate was I wanted something that was a little bit more dynamic, that changed, that I could travel with. Not all the projects would be the same. So management consulting seemed something that would interest me, given that it was in the corporate sphere.
Did you start off in accounting and then you moved into management consulting?
No, I just went straight into it because I actually graduated with 2 degrees.
Oh, right. Cool.
Clearly had no idea what I wanted to do at university.
Where are you from and what's your cultural background?
I'm actually Malaysian by birth, but I grew up in Australia in Sydney. I graduated from the University of Sydney, hence the Australian sort of sounding accent. My mother moved to New York. My parents separated when I was little, so she moved over to New York. So I spent a little bit of time in New York. So sometimes I sound a little bit funny with my accent. I've actually lived all over the place. So between Sydney, New York, Kuala Lumpur, and now Hong Kong.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. How brilliant. How long have you been in Hong Kong?
Almost a decade now. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You started off in management consulting and then did you move into fashion design and jewelry?
That's the funny part. I've always been good with my hands. I suppose, ironically, whether it's punching somebody or making jewelry. And I would often design. My mother was a former designer, so jewelry was something that I did as a hobby, as was boxing. So it was probably 2 very different hobbies. While I was in the consulting space, I had a lot of hours, which, I thought, let me do something that I enjoy. And I was designing jewelry at that stage and just going to the handmade markets and selling that. So it was a very, very small business. I probably did that for about 3 years while juggling a full-time job. Wasn't too much of a juggle because it was more just when I made something, I would go to markets with it. But when I decided to finally actually change my career, that was probably the biggest change I've made in my life, actually.
You moved from fashion design and jewelry design sort of as a creative hobby and management consulting, and you left that
completely.
And you became a renowned MMA fighter. For our listeners out there, Trish is a celebrated MMA fighter. And also, did you create Bikini Fit? Were you the originator of that?
So I was one of the 2 founders of Bikini Fit. When I left PricewaterhouseCoopers, I wanted to actually go into fitness. And this is something that has fascinated me from a young age. I mean, as I was growing up, had a lot of, I came from basically a dysfunctional family. Sport was one of my very few outlets. And growing up in Australia in the 80s, and, as one can imagine, sometimes being Asian, you kind of stick out like an outsider. And it was one of the things that, regardless whether I was playing netball or swimming or, playing volleyball or just doing something that was in a team environment and a sporting environment, I wasn't called out as a chink. I wasn't a nerd. I wasn't anything, but I was just playing sport. I was part of the team.
We're both Australian, and it's interesting in Australia that one of the ways to get accepted is to play sport or drink beer.
Yeah, that was something I picked up later on.
So that's really interesting. So before you got into sport as a kid, were you bullied?
Yes. I think it was being racially different, also being someone who excelled at studies. That made me kind of stick out in the schools that I was in.
That's a bit of an Asian stereotype, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it was surprising when you see somebody who is good at studies also being good at sport. I think outside of that, like the moment I stepped off the sports field or I stepped out of PE class, it seemed like that PE class was a dream, and then everything else was like, it's back to reality. I had BB guns being shot at me.
No, did you?
Yeah. In like year 6, year 7, the little boys like lifting up my skirt. And what I was really afraid of was some of the other Asian girls were being bullied in the sense of, let's make so-and-so cry day. Kids can be really, really mean.
Did you have other Asian friends, or were you the only sort of Asian kid amongst all the Australian kids?
I had 1 or 2 Asian friends.
Or I should say Caucasian, because you were still Australian. There's me being racist. Sorry, folks.
It's all about political correctness nowadays, right?
We've got to try and keep on top of it. Yeah.
I had 1 or 2 Asian friends.
Were they bullied too?
Australian friends, yeah. And it's funny because the typical Aussie friends that I had who were my friends were also bullied. So
there's just a whole lot of bullying going on.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, but I think it was just a function of children being children, and it's almost like if you're the odd one out somehow, whether it's, it's that tall poppy syndrome we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so if you're doing well, you get knocked down. If you look different, you get picked on.
Absolutely. Fast forward to, my early 20s, I used to love just coming out of work, whether it was lunchtime or after work, and working out. And I used to go to these group classes where you almost idolize the instructor because they look amazing. They have so much energy, so much passion, and you walk away inspired and tired physically, but you feel great mentally. And it was a dream to be like them. And I always thought I'm never going to be good enough. I'm not going to be strong enough. I'm not going to look muscular or slim enough to be them. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not athletic enough. And it was just a role or a job or a career, which was completely, I thought, was out of my own reach because I had set my limits that way.
Right. So you had a self-perception, perhaps because you're a little bit shorter and Asian, and typically Asians don't become big and buff, but they can, because clearly look at you look amazing.
Exactly. And I just thought, well, there was no way. So I never even gave myself that option, which looking back was probably a little bit silly, because now I look at the last 10 years of what I've achieved and that's amazing. I should have done this earlier. And that's really been when people ask me, what is my one biggest regret, is not starting earlier.
Right. What age did you start moving into the fitness?
I was probably 28 I think 29.
Okay.
So I'd started to get more interested in strength and conditioning. At the time, I had basically started boxing. I signed up for something called Hedge Fund Fight Night back in, I think it was 2010.
Oh my God. So you trained for that? Is that how you got into MMA fighting?
Yeah. A friend of mine said to me, let's be the first two girls to do this white collar boxing match. And I went, you have to be crazy. I'm not getting punched in the face. Like, this is the moneymaker. And she was like, no, it'll be fun. The training's free. I'm Asian, so this is where I can be completely stereotypical and went, training's free?
Brilliant.
I'll do it. And so we did it. There were a couple of other girls that were doing it at the same time, but we somehow got picked to fight each other. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, like both from a physical standpoint and the fact that you really don't want to punch your mate.
Yeah, sure.
And I just went from there. And I think the courage and the tenacity that you develop and you realize that it is within yourself during that entire process allows you to kind of use that in the other aspects of your life that you're not so happy about. And I think that was this little push that I needed to realize, like, look, I'm doing a 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 in Hong Kong. Not very happy about it. I look around me. There's nobody that really inspires me. I don't really have a role model that I aspire to be here. Whereas all the role models that I look at are in an industry which I thought that is completely shut off to me. And I said, well, I'm a desk job person. Yeah, it's white collar, but I just got in a ring and got punched up.
Was that the tipping point for you when you realized that if you could do something like that, then you could certainly move into the fitness space?
Absolutely. I actually took a bit of a career break. I asked for a career break at the start. I was also mentoring with the Women's Foundation, and the current chairwoman now, Fiona Note, was my mentor. And if there was any doubt in my mind about switching careers and starting off in a whole new, completely different industry, she basically just went, you know what, do it. Just do it.
Great. And so you just took a leap of faith and you did it. Is that when you started Bikini Fit or started your own gym?
I actually met the other founder of Bikini Fit and we kind of started the whole thing together. I think he already had a group of members. There were about 12 of them to begin with. When I joined up, we decided to really roll out the entire concept across as much of Hong Kong as we could.
Cool. Can you tell me or tell our listeners what is Bikini Fit? Because anybody outside of Hong Kong may not know what that is.
Bikini Fit was a health and fitness community that trained outdoors, and it was basically female only. Not only did we have training groups in the morning where you would basically do lots of squats, burpees, squat jumps, TRX work. We also used equipment, so it was almost like a pop-up gym. And in the evenings, we ran workshops. So we ran a lot of education because one of the frustrations when I first started working out in my teens and then in my very early 20s was there's a lot of information in the industry that can be very easily misinterpreted. Or there are a lot of myths. You know, one of the biggest ones being if women use weights, they'll get big and they'll look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Or if I wanted to lose weight, I have to eat less calories. A lot of the reason for the community was to help women navigate all that. You know, do I need supplements? What supplements do I take? You know, what food should I eat? Is it bad to have red meat? Is it bad to be vegan? There's so many trends, and you'll see, particularly in Hong Kong, the last 6 to 7 years, there are so many fads as well.
Yeah, definitely. Did this also then inspire you into women empowerment?
Absolutely.
Is that where you moved into that sphere as well? Because as a part of all of this, you're obviously empowering women.
Absolutely. I felt that as sort of someone who a lot of the girls looked up to, I also suffered from my own self-doubt or self-limitations, I suppose you would call it. A lot of it was striving to be perfect because that whole image at the start, you know, when I was 16 looking up the fitness instructors and thinking, oh, they've got chiseled bodies and their life is perfect and they're so Instagram friendly, I put a lot of pressure on myself to, one, look amazing. So i.e. I have my abs out all the time. I needed to learn as much as I could because I was suffering from this, I suppose, doubt about maybe I don't know enough, or it was that striving towards, I want to be able to help somebody as much as I possibly can. So in every spare minute, if I wasn't reading a management book, I would be reading strength and conditioning books, nutrition. I was taking courses. I was trying to basically accelerate my learning and work with people on a one-on-one basis outside of that, on top of that, and all these other projects to basically skill up as fast as I could. And it was all around just trying to be perfect.
Where do you think that comes from? Does that come from your dysfunctional family that you mentioned, from the bullying when you were younger, from being a stereotypical Asian, or the stereotypical Asian family pressures? Or do you think it's just part and parcel of being a woman? Or all of the above?
I think it's all of the above.
Yeah.
I think as women, society also with the help of social media dictates that, okay, if I'm almost 7 months pregnant right now.
I know, and you look amazing, by the way.
I'm basically going to have a baby and within 3 weeks be able to get out into the open with a little crop top on and a flat tummy. All the while being a great mother, breastfeeding,
running your business.
Running my business.
Yeah, there's massive pressure, isn't there?
Absolutely.
And it's not realistic, is it?
And regardless of whatever age group you are, whether you're in the teenage age group or whether you're part of your young 20s and you're just starting out into careers, whether you're in the middle of your career or you're older or you've got teenagers, sons and daughters, I think every single age group as females, you are expected to juggle just about 1 million things. And you know what? Look absolutely great through the whole thing.
Yep. And don't show any emotion. Yeah. Don't get emotional because it's unacceptable. Yeah. I'm being sarcastic, listeners. Because it's healthy to be emotional and show your feelings. But there's an expectation that women shouldn't be overly emotional or have their emotions fluctuate.
And nobody talks about failure. They talk about, success all the time.
This is the thing. You can learn so much more from your failures than your successes, can't you?
Absolutely. And it depends on how you define what your failure and how you define what success is. Because oftentimes we define our success by what others think or what others perceive or what you think would be the best for you because of everything else around you or what media dictates.
Yeah, all of that. And as you said, the unrealistic expectations that you put on yourself for all of those reasons we mentioned.
And if you fail to reach whatever that 100% is in your head, you consider it as a failure when actually, when you really sit back and think about it, yes, what we're discussing right now, it is a first world problem. But in order to feel and be emotionally empowered and mentally empowered as a female or even as a man, you need to go, wait a second, realistically, what is success to me, right? At a stage in my life, success was just getting out of bed.
Why is that? Did you have depression or was there something going on?
Yeah. I went through a year where I lost my first business. I went through a very nasty divorce. And at the same time, I had an injury which doctors told me that I would never be able to compete again. It all kind of happened one after the other, and you kind of go...
That was enough to knock you down.
Yeah, every time you pick yourself up, it just felt like, okay, that's the lowest I could get. And then something would happen, and you're like, oh, wait, hang on a second. There is lower than that, and then there's lower than that, and there's lower than that. And you get to a stage where you're like, oh my God, I can't get anywhere.
Did you just want to give up at that point?
Oh, yeah.
How did you pull yourself out of that?
I think it took a lot of support, first of all, from people that were close to me and that understood it.
And were you able to reach out? Because if you have that sort of perfectionist thing going on, it's very hard to ask for help, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there were 2 people in my life that reached out to me who realized that I needed someone to actually just put their hand out and go, you know what, grab it. There was that. There was just an inner emotion, or I guess an inner belief where I don't really want to put myself in front of a car or a train.
Right. Okay.
Right. I've never given myself that option. And why should I be giving myself that option now?
Are you saying that you were feeling suicidal?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, wow. Right. I didn't realize it was that desperate.
Oh, yeah. There was a stage where I remembered walking in Causeway and all I wanted to do was to get groceries at that stage. And I saw myself in the mirror, in a window, whatever it was. And I was like, God, I've become fat. I'm ugly. I've got nothing. My husband left me. Basically, like I'm on crutches. I had major knee surgery. I was like, I'm a cripple. I've got nothing.
Isn't it incredible how our minds can work and how you can be so down on yourself, but you would never say any of that to your friend, would you? But
No,
you can say it to
yeah.
yourself.
And I think you beat yourself up a lot more than you would if someone said, oh, how are you feeling? And a lot of times I remember during that period, everyone's like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, because we fake it till we make it as well, don't we? You can fake it. We can all fake it. And that's the thing. I think one of the most important lessons that I'm drawing from what you're saying now is to reach out and ask for help if you need it, and allow yourself to be vulnerable and allow yourself to admit that you're not managing.
Yes. And I think you've touched on it quite succinctly, because all it was to realize that, and I talk about this, I did a TED talk in November last year, it's just to be enough. That you don't necessarily need to be 100%, or you don't necessarily need to be perfect, because perfect actually doesn't exist.
Yeah, because what is perfect? What is normal?
But it's enough to be enough, and it's enough to set little successes on a day-to-day basis. For example, today, my success is to be able to eat 3 times a day. I've been vomiting. So it's really to keep food down and to have energy for my clients. That's a successful day. It was to make it here on time. Successful day.
You were 15 minutes early. Oh my God. Well, thank you for coming. I didn't know you'd been vomiting today. What's going on? Are you not feeling well?
I've been vomiting all throughout my pregnancy.
Oh, no. So you've had just like, what's it called? The thing that Kate Middleton had?
Hyperemesis.
So it's like just continual morning sickness, have you?
Yeah, it's come on and off. It's getting better in my 3rd trimester now. So thankfully, like, it's not on a daily basis, but my first 5.5 months was a shocker.
How did you cope with running your business and empowering women and doing all the things that you do and having that?
Really, just basically think about what my priorities are. I say no a lot.
And there's a massive lesson in that, isn't there?
I say no more than I want to. I set my boundaries. After 9 p.m. is my time. I don't answer work-related messages. I don't send emails. Try and get everything out by 9 p.m. at night. I have hours in a day, and I picked this up from one of my mentors, hours in a day where I answer emails. I try to do a block in the morning, a block at night. If it doesn't get done,
put it to the next day. Yeah.
I've turned down certain things to just say, sorry, I can't do it. I have a lot on at the moment. I know people reach out to me often for lunch and dinner. So in a way, I wouldn't say I sacrifice that, but I say, look, maybe can we meet in June or July when things are a little bit less busy? Sundays, I switch off completely.
Good for you. And is this something that getting pregnant and having morning sickness, it took that to make you do this? Or were you doing this before you got pregnant?
I was doing this before I got pregnant. So one of the lessons I learned from my year of shite, as I would put it, is that I was trying to do everything. And I was saying yes to everyone. And the last person that I was looking after was myself. And it's funny because someone asked me to do a prioritization exercise. What I did was he asked me, off the top of your head, within the next 5 minutes, tell me 5 things that are your priority right now.
Okay, quick. Can I do it with you?
Go, do it.
Okay, writing my book, podcasting, teaching and teaching. No. So writing my book, podcasting, teaching, sleeping. I really try hard to sleep. And my health, I guess. I'm not even prioritizing my health.
Exactly.
But I should
now,
be.
Given those 5 priorities, what are the percentages you're putting to that?
90% is going into the teaching, podcasting and writing the book, and 10% is going into sleeping. No, 9% into sleeping and 1% into my health, because I'm not well, but I'm really not doing very much about it because I don't have the time.
And based on those percentages, what should the percentages be?
Well, they should be completely the other way, but I don't see any way out of it. I have created my bed and now I have to lie in it, and I've kind of got to get through the next steps. There's not much else I can do, but I need to learn from this and not to take on so much and to shift it as soon as I get the opportunity, which will be soon. My book will be finished on the 10th of June.
Yay!
And being published on the 20th of August.
Awesome.
Fool Me Twice. You can get it on Amazon on the 20th of August. Please do that, folks. And then that can help me get on the bestseller list. After that, it'll just be teaching and podcasting, and then I need to just prioritize my health and my sleep, really, and socializing.
And after talking through it, and you keep talking about your health and how you should be prioritizing it, do you start feeling like, okay, hang on a second. Wow, my life is skewed towards this whole working. And I've done nothing for myself. But in order to be the better version of yourself at work, in your personal life, etc., you actually need to invest in yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That conversation that I went, oh my God, I've invested in my professional development, my learning, my clients, my work, my career, other people. I haven't invested in my well-being. As a result of that, I look at a mirror and I go, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that, I'm this, and it's all negative. And when something negative happens to you and you're already feeling negative, it just takes you to a very dark place. And so I thought, hang on a second, I need to start investing in my health, my well-being, right? Physically, I'm happy with what I'm doing. And so what I did back then...
Because you were already doing all your fitness stuff. So it wasn't about that. It was more about mindfulness and well-being, was it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my coaches back then would joke that if you looked up overtraining in a dictionary, my name would be there.
So are you an overtrainer? I'm an oversharer.
At one stage, I was training twice a day, every day.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So was part of your well-being cutting down on that a bit?
Absolutely. And spending more time with myself. I went traveling. I decided to basically leave the very business that I loved and go off on trips. I went on learning trips as well as sort of, I guess, I hate to say it, but the whole eat, pray, love journey, except it was more like eat. A little bit of Tinder, eat.
Brilliant. That's the way to get over a breakup. Travel, eat, and get on Tinder.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Europe was great.
Good for you.
Holds a special place in my heart.
Did you find baby daddy on that trip?
No, thank God, no.
Okay, cool.
I actually met him offline in real life.
Oh, did you? Oh my God, I don't know many people that do that these days. What was your secret? Did you meet him in doing stuff you're interested in or out in a bar?
Ooh, that's really hard. Okay, so I met him in the elevator.
What?
Of the gym that I used to work out in.
Oh, okay. So doing something that you love more or less.
I had just done what I loved, and I walked into an elevator, and this random guy spoke to me.
No way, and that's how it began. Oh my God, that's so romantic. See, guys, you can still meet people in elevators and at the supermarket.
Just make sure you don't press the close button really fast.
Yeah. Is that what you did? Nearly shut him out.
Yeah, that's what people do in Hong Kong.
Yeah, they do. They do. Because if you're pushing it really fast, that guy might just get in the lift.
And then you stand right at the front of the elevator with your back to everyone. Yeah. So next time, stand at the back, looking at everybody and let people in.
Yeah, that's a really nice little tip. I'm going to note that down. What other things did you do for your well-being in that time? You traveled and you...
I let go. I think a lot of it was about letting go of simple things like I didn't track my food. I didn't track my sleep. I think at one stage I was tracking sleep. I used to get up in the morning and the first thing I would check would be, my Fitbit results.
And if you see that you've been awake 25 times, you feel terrible immediately. It's like, oh my God, I've had a terrible sleep. But if you didn't have that stupid tracker, you wouldn't necessarily even know how much you've been awake, would you?
Exactly. And I started trusting my gut a little bit more because there's nothing like waking up in the morning and not looking at a tracker and going, maybe if the tracker said, oh, you tossed and turned and you got up about 10 times, but you felt like you didn't. When you're using the tracker, you go, wait a second, I feel good, but the tracker says I woke up 10 times. So should I be feeling good or should I not be feeling good? And I think women tend to overthink that. Even with calorie tracking, when I work with a lot of female clients now, my directive to them is, I don't want you to track your calories. I want you to track your energy and how you feel after a meal. And to also, when you're eating, eat real food and eat till you're about 80% full.
Yeah. Oh, this is good advice. Quick, where's my notebook? But that's right. Eat healthy food. Don't overfill. I'm a fast eater because I'm so busy. So I eat like a beast. And then it's just like I've overfilled myself and eaten too much. I don't mindfully eat at all, ever really, hardly. And that's really good advice. And that's the way to do it. And then you eat your 5 food groups and just eat well.
Yeah.
And don't eat processed crap.
Yeah. So I was at the Irish Strength Institute and they have around food, they had this really amazing tip. It's a 5, 10, 15, 20 rule. And you spend 5 minutes just being present. When you're eating, you're eating. You're not working and eating. You're not watching TV and eating. You are eating. You spend 5 minutes going, I'm going to have dinner or I'm going to have lunch. You take 10 chews before you swallow. You spend 15 minutes eating your meal. And then after that, you go for a 20-minute walk. No electronics, just you. Just walk, just appreciate the beauty around you.
Oh, see, that's really cool. And that's actually something that feels like it could be manageable to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all about creating small goals like that. It's not so much about going, okay, in 6 months, I want to get my abs out. But it's about going, wait, what are the little tips and tricks that I can do with my life right now to make my life better? And when you're working towards making your life better, automatically your health becomes better. Maybe your physical, your body composition becomes better. If you focus solely on body composition, in my experience, both working with myself and with other people, the mindset's always about what can I sacrifice? What can I cut out, cut down, remove? But then when you focus on optimizing health and making your life easier and better, you then focus on adding to your life. What can I add? What can I do to maintain or develop or grow? And so there are 2 different mindsets. And when you change towards that growth mindset or the adding mindset, you feel that I'm not sacrificing anything anymore. I'm actually adding to it and you feel full.
Yeah, what a cool philosophy. That's really good. Have you got any other top tips? My notebook's filling up. That's brilliant. That's really cool. So what else do you do for mindfulness? This is a free therapy session, ladies and gentlemen, for all of us.
I mean, I'm not a yoga person, I'm not Pilates person. My meditation is in the gym room.
Right.
It's not in
Yeah, mine is listening to podcasts. It really is. I love just lying down before I go to bed and being off everything and just listening to somebody talk to me.
And it's got to be what works for you, because there is at the moment in my industry and in the health and wellness industry there is a huge pressure of you have to do something to be part of this whole mindfulness wellness movement. But really, I think just do what works for you. If taking a hike, Dragon's Back, or even somewhere more remote and swearing and screaming.
Sounding very tribal.
You know, at the top of your lungs and no one would hear you or someone might hear you. It's Hong Kong. And if that to you is release and that to you is, you know what, that takes a whole load off my shoulders, then do it. If the simple act of speaking up for yourself or speaking your mind,
so important.
If that helps you release, then you know what, do it because you feel better for it. I was speaking to a client this morning, and one of the greatest things about her is that she takes what she has done in the gym and she translates it to real life. So, you know, she never thought she could deadlift 75 kilos. For some people out there, it might be nothing, but for her, it was huge. You know, she's in her late 40s. She's got kids in university. She is completely stressed out at work. And the other day, she didn't just deadlift 75 kilos once. She deadlifted it, I think, probably about 8 times.
Wow, that's awesome.
Which is huge. And she said that day she went to work and she'd been feeling super frustrated at work. And she just told her boss what she thought. And she said, you know what, Trish, my life changed at that point. Because when he knew what I thought, everything at work changed that little bit. And it's actually better. And she did it again the day after. It's incredible because she's like, oh, I feel so much less stress.
Yeah, it's a release, isn't it? Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it's so important to find your voice. I think that's a huge lesson and something that I've learned recently through going to life coaching. and it's been really helpful, but I can't do it all the time. But I'm working on it. And you've got to keep reminding yourself, don't you, of all of these things that can help you and make you feel better.
Absolutely. I think that's what's gotten me in towards the more holistic coaching. Of course, I'm still learning lots about strength and conditioning and the human anatomy. And lately they're saying fascia as its entire own nervous system. But also I think there's another side to coaching, which is to do with positive psychology, understanding hormones, understanding a person's reaction or their personality or their character traits even, and understanding how they would react to certain cues, be it lifestyle changes. Some people are more adaptable, others are not. Some people may like to do things that make them feel empowered. Others love, the longer the workout, the better. It really...
You adapt to your client and you get to know your client.
Absolutely. And that's why at the moment I'm doing a qualification under the Institute of Functional Medicine. So I'm doing my Functional Medicine Coaching Academy qualification.
Cool.
It's really hard.
Oh, good for you. Yeah. And you're pregnant. Your brain goes to mush when you're pregnant.
Yeah.
So it'll be even harder.
It's so much information. It's a fantastic qualification to go through. More for the practical work. That's been really, really tough. I did put it on hold for the last 1 year because of my role over at the Goji Studios, where I'm looking after the fitness side of things and I'm helping develop the coaches over there. And that took quite a fair amount of time, and it's still taking me pretty much my entire day. I did have to put it on hold, and that was part of my ability to say, you know what? I love doing this. I don't have time to be fully present in it right now. And if I'm doing something for the sake of getting a piece of paper, then that's probably not the right way to do it. But give me a year, let me focus on X. Then the year after I go back to it, I can fully put everything into it. That's another thing that we'll be picking up in August.
That's really brilliant that you've got that opportunity to be able to dictate where you take the pedal off and where you put it back on again, because you're working for yourself.
Yes and no.
Because I don't feel like I've got that luxury in a way.
I think it's about going, well, what areas do I need to prioritize, right? And what's really important for me? If I don't get this qualification this year, what are the consequences? Nothing really. No one trains with me because I have a sheet of paper. They train with me hopefully because they like what I do with them and they like my approach to training and nutrition and lifestyle. And then there are things like days off, like must I really go on a wellness holiday? No, not really actually. I could just take the day off, go to Sai Kung Beach, sit for a bit. That's a timeout. Do I need to take on an extra client? No. Financially, yes, that would be fantastic. But what would it do for my own mental, physical, and emotional well-being? Is that going to have a detrimental effect because I've taken one extra person who takes up maybe an additional 3 hours of the week, which I don't have? So I make a call on that.
Yeah, so it is about prioritizing, isn't it? And we can all do that. It's too easy to go, oh, I'm too busy. I can't go and swim twice a week, which is what I should be doing. I should be going and swimming twice a week because I love it and I've got bad knees and it's something that's low impact. But I just say, I'm too busy and I'm too tired, blah,
and
blah.
And it's like the conversation we had about me training, being 7 months pregnant at the moment. People think that I'm training every day. No, I'm not, because you know why? I can't train every single day because some days I don't have the time. At the moment, moving is one of my many priorities, but hard training when I'm pregnant is probably not the best thing for me.
And you haven't been well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm training on the days that I feel great to feel better.
Yeah.
And if I go, okay, twice a week for me is a complete miraculous success. And this is someone that used to train probably 12 times a week minimum.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. So you've really made some changes. Yeah.
It's just being, but that's okay. And getting my sleep may be more of a priority given that, it's not just me anymore. There's someone in here.
Yeah. Yeah. And you need to get all the sleep you can before the baby comes, because then you won't be getting any sleep for ages.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true. Some babies sleep through from week 2, and that's just ridiculous. And we hate those people.
Well, that will be a stress for the next 18 years.
I love the name Warrior Academy. How did you come up with that name? This is the name of your gym, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Warrior Academy, because actually my business partners also had Warrior Hong Kong, so we wanted to use the word warrior. But Academy because of the fact that we didn't want to be just a gym, right? We wanted to be a community that educates. And a lot of the times when I'm coaching someone, I actually don't coach people any differently from my coaches. There might be less of a dialogue, but I still try and explain why they're doing something, how they may feel during and after, and what they are preparing for in the next 3 weeks. If I know that the person's goal is to do 1 pull-up, I go, okay, well, let's space it across the next 12, 16 weeks. We need to lay some foundational work first, and we'll do this for 3 weeks. And we're prepping you to be able to do X, Y, and Z before we move on to do A, B, and C. It's Academy for the reason of we do run workshops where I can. Either I take it or whenever I have some of my network that I have coming through Hong Kong, we try and hold as much seminars or workshops and special classes as much as we can, just so that people learn and our members learn.
So it really is holistic coaching, isn't it? It's even more than, it's not like having a personal trainer. It's like having a fitness and life coach. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's what we try to do. I mean, all the coaches are great. We know everyone mostly by name. We know what their challenges are, and we try and encourage them to keep track of their progress. And all the programming, especially on the fitness side, is done in sort of like in periodized blocks. Over on the martial arts side, it's really about encouraging people to come out of their shell and learning things that they may necessarily not learn or maybe not want to do. I mean, if nobody had pulled me, my girlfriend Rachel back in the day never pulled me to do white collar boxing.
You wouldn't be where you are today.
I wouldn't be here. I'd be at a desk still in a firm which I was like, oh God, this is going to be for the rest of my life.
Do you find any discrimination or any negativity being a female in this industry?
I think that the discrimination may be because that men are perceived to be strong. For example, sometimes male clients may not necessarily want to train with me because they think I'm a girl and I can't lift as much. Right.
But looking at your shoulders, I bet you can lift as much.
I think there's that, but I also do think that I don't think there's too much discrimination in the industry. I do think it's a very hard industry to be in because you're working all the hours that nobody else wants to work. I think it's quite difficult, as this applies to any job. If you have kids, you're trying to juggle that, particularly a baby.
Well, it will be hard. So are you going to have to rethink things when you're a mum, or will you just see how things go?
I think we're very lucky to live in Hong Kong.
Yes, because we have help.
We have help, and I would probably not even be able to manage if I lived outside of Hong Kong for that reason. That being said, though, I still want to have that interaction with my child. In my head, I'm thinking I will take the maternity period off, and I will basically may need to have somebody who is temporarily in charge instead of me. Maybe make a couple of hours in a day work, but I wouldn't be able to pull a 12-hour day or a 15-hour day like I do sometimes now. That needs to definitely change, and I'm actually working my team hopefully towards knowing that, understanding that, and actually owning up, or rather not owning up, but taking ownership of their respective roles. So there's a little bit of that as well.
Yeah,
and I'm completely nervous.
Yeah, but you know what? Trust your instincts, because they're amazing when you have a baby, and follow those instincts. Do you know what I mean? Like, really trust your gut, and you'll know what's best for you and for your baby, and every baby's different. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you still do the MMA fighting?
I haven't competed.
What does that stand for? MMA? Oh, I'm so ignorant. Sorry. I could have Googled that.
That's okay.
What does it stand for?
MMA stands for mixed martial arts. If you want to think about mixed martial arts, it's basically taking all the different martial art forms, whether it's taekwondo, karate, Western boxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, wrestling, Sanda, which is free-form fighting, Muay Thai, kickboxing, all of that. You put it in a wok and you stir-fry it. That's pretty much mixed martial arts. Depending on the competition or the promotion that you fight with, they have different sets of rules. Those rules could differ. I mean, for example, one promotion would allow a soccer kick in the head. Not fun. Others would not. But largely enough, you do fight within a weight class division. You obviously fight someone of the same sex, and you typically you fight for 3 rounds of 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many titles have you won?
I've actually only done one professional fight. I did lose that, unfortunately. It was funny because I was in a really great state of mind before the fight, but 6 weeks before the fight, my husband left me.
Oh, so it was around that time.
Yeah, and it took everything that I had to actually even get into the cage. I consider it a win on my side. My opponent was fantastic, had a great game plan. She's a fantastic fighter, totally deserved the win. I wasn't there mentally, but I was really proud that I actually did it because a week before it, I wanted to just not do it.
Good on you. That must have been really difficult and a huge turning point for you probably in your recovery from the breakup.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at that time when I walked into the cage, all I could think of was, I just need to survive. And I think I did great for the 3 rounds. I don't remember much of it, funnily enough, but I do remember the people around me. And my 2 biggest supporters in life were there. And I can't thank them enough because they were there not just for that fight, but they've been there ever since for me.
Oh, that's great.
And I think just by making a point and saying, you know what, I'm not giving up. I can't throw the towel in before the fight's even started. That's silly. I think that was a great experience in itself. And I'm really looking forward at one stage to getting back in. So it was supposed to be this year.
Yeah. You I'm sorry, I don't want to break it to you, but you can't do it pregnant.
I'm just battling gestational diabetes right now.
So what has dealing with all these struggles, facing all of these challenges, taught you about yourself?
It has definitely taught me that I am a stronger person than I ever thought I was. When I look at the teenager that I was, who was very unsure of herself, I look at the young adult that I was, who was trying to always be the person that she thought everyone else wanted her to be. I feel really empowered by what I've achieved in the last 10 years, that I actually really know who I am anymore. And it comes across as very first degree, but what you see in front of you is what you get with me. I'm not the type of person to play games or to be someone I'm not. Generally, if I say I'll do something or I commit to something, or I promise to do something, or I am something, it's made me into a better person because I'm less stressed about perception, right? Like, I'm happy to go on Instagram and be, I think I was 5 or 6 months pregnant at the time, still deadlifting, and get comments from people saying that I'm completely stupid, I'm lifting weight that I shouldn't. And I said, well, actually, no, because I'm lifting it for 5 reps. I'm stopping, I'm resting for quite a while. I'm not placing massive pressure compared to what I can lift. If you're looking at 120 kilos versus 70, it's completely different. And don't get me wrong, 70 could be another woman's 1 rep max.
Yeah, but it's for you. Yeah. But there's a lot of judgment out, but people don't know the backstory. People don't know what's going on, and we've got to learn not to buy into it.
Yeah, and I've just become someone who's not afraid to stand up for what I believe in, what I think. And I think that's one thing which I feel a lot of people struggle with. You know what? I'm not afraid to say no, and I'm not afraid to say yes either.
Yeah. And that's really good advice, isn't it? Some people do need to find that balance.
Absolutely.
Have you had to deal with shame or guilt or any of these really negative emotions and move through them? Or has it just been more of disappointment, depression, that sort of thing?
I think in my divorce, when I saw my marriage fail, I think there was a lot of guilt and shame and depression and anger and a whole lot of other emotions. I mean, first and foremost, when, we were together for almost a decade, we were married almost 5 years. When you leave a marriage or, when your couple falls apart, what also happens is the future, your dreams,
they all implode, don't they?
Exactly.
Your identity shifts.
Yeah. And being part of a couple for 10 years it's a long time, and you slowly all of a sudden then become this part of couple, then all of a sudden, boom.
Did you see it coming?
No, absolutely not.
Really? See, that makes it harder, doesn't it? I think if you kind of see it coming and things aren't great or whatever, you can sort of prepare yourself, but you didn't have any of that?
No, I actually got dumped by WhatsApp.
No. no, from a 10-year, damn social media.
I do have a certain dislike for WhatsApp.
I'm not surprised. Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that.
It's okay now. I think there was a lot of emotion that occurred in days and the weeks and the months after. And I often asked myself, how much of myself do I have to blame for it? And I blamed myself for a very, 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 very long time.
So that's another emotion, blame.
Exactly. So I did feel guilty that maybe I was overly focused on my career. I definitely felt guilty that every spare minute I had, I was training, or I was in this mindset of, I want to be a competitor. I want to also be a good coach. I want to be everything. But then I also want to be a good wife, but I failed at that. And I failed at this and I failed at, and it was a cascade of fail, 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 fail. I did go through the stages of guilt, shame, and blame for probably a very long time.
And how do you think you moved out of it? Sorry.
Small steps. I sound like an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Definitely small steps. Redefining success was probably the biggest step. So I talk about that in my TED talk about going, okay, what is a success really? Getting out of bed is one. Later on, it became, okay, seeing a friend in public for coffee with a clean shirt on. And then later on about going, doing my first squat after a massive knee surgery. And you just build on that.
So it was small goals, setting yourself small goals.
Absolutely.
And achieving them, and then giving yourself the room to praise yourself and feel good about it.
And then I had this, God, I can't believe I'm on a podcast saying this. Okay.
Go for it. We love
I
it.
had a mini project that I didn't tell anyone about, and now the whole world knows, called Project 100. I don't know why the number was 100. It just sounded like a good triple digit figure. Back in the day, I wanted a 100 kilo deadlift. Now I want a 200 kilo deadlift. It was to do with going on 100 first dates.
Really? You set yourself a goal for 100 first dates in Hong Kong? Who can get 100 dates in Hong Kong?
I got nowhere. I didn't even get anywhere near 30. So, yeah, that's...
But anyway, good on you for setting that.
But what I did was I learned a lot about what I wanted, and not in a partner, but actually what I wanted for myself. There was a guy that was really funny. He had... It seemed like it was the entire date was an interview. So he had like a checklist.
Did he? Like what? He literally pulled it out on the table?
No, but I thought he had it hidden somewhere because it was like, how do you feel about animals? Oh, how do you feel about your divorce? What is your favorite color? Like, what are your plans in the next 5 years? I was like, oh God, I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, my friends just text me. I've got to go. There's an emergency.
So I knew I didn't want a checklist guy.
But you learned what you wanted and
Absolutely.
more about yourself.
More about myself than other people, I think. And it was also a way to kind of go, the last time I dated, technology for dating didn't exist. And you would meet people at house parties or friends parties, etc. Whereas this one was a little bit different. But I think what it really, really taught me was I shouldn't be the person that I think I want to be, but I should rather just be the person I am right now.
And be happy with that.
Exactly. And being able to put my foot down and saying, you know what, lovely meeting you, but I'm better off as acquaintances or friends. Or like, you know, I met some amazing people out of it who are still friends, who are in their own right incredible. And, you know, we still talk, which is great. And like, it was more about becoming free in that sense of, you know, free to be me.
Oh, I love that. Free to be me.
I know, it sounds
That's
like
awesome.
It's like an ad.
Yeah, that's going to be your podcast ad. There's the quote I'm going to use.
Oh, God.
That's great. And there's the title of the podcast.
Yeah.
Free to be me.
Yes.
That's great.
Project 100 didn't even hit 30, but hey.
But what a great idea.
Exactly.
That's good.
Next thing I know, I'm pregnant. Woo!
Yeah. And you met the guy in the lift.
Yeah. It was my very last date.
Oh, brilliant. That's so fantastic. So, Trish, if you had your life over, would you do anything differently?
I would be a lot more confident to trust my gut instinct very early on. And even then, to be honest, I don't really regret anything. Like I said earlier in this podcast, the one thing I do regret was not pursuing my passion earlier. And I truly do believe that when you face possible financial difficulty, if you want to change that career, you set self-limits or whatever limits that you think it is, whether it's like, oh no, I won't have enough money to pay rent. My friends will hate me. My parents will disown me. I don't want to be the tall poppy. I don't know if I can even do this. But if it is truly something that you want to pursue, when you do pursue it and you pursue it out of passion, you do it well, sky's the limit. There really is no ceiling.
It's really true. And you just can never know the rewards that you will get. You can't even imagine what you will get out of pursuing your passion because you don't know until you do it. And then all of these things come to you tenfold that you never even expected. And that's certainly what I'm getting from my podcast by meeting people like you. You've inspired me to do a few things and make a few changes just from this conversation.
But look at what you've done. Yeah. You're inspiring Hong Kong. You're writing a book.
I know, that's scaring me. That's giving me anxiety.
But that's amazing. And had you not started these podcast series, maybe that book wouldn't have been.
It wouldn't have, because I interviewed the woman who's now my agent from the online author's office. And also having everyone share their stories and their secret and opening up to me, it inspired me to open up in my book. And now I've got anxiety.
No, I mean, there's so much, there's really so much power in sharing.
Yes. And there's healing and it's cathartic and it's anxiety ridden. But apart from that, hey, it's like having a baby and I'm still in labor and my baby will be born on the 20th of August. And once it's out there, I probably won't feel so stressed. Once it's done, it's while it's still in the process. I'm dealing with it. I'm doing stuff to try and deal with it.
Like putting together a baby, growing an eyeball, growing a foot. I think you need to be...
Sounds like a cyborg.
It does. Be proud of your journey and enjoy it. Because, and I think you are, because when you talk about your book and you talk about your podcast, I mean, the listeners probably don't see this because they're listening to it, but I mean, Jules, your face changes.
Oh, that's really nice.
And it's amazing to see that. And I see it every single time someone says to me, oh, hey, I just went out and I just spoke my mind. I just went out and did something that I've been meaning to do for a very, very, very long time, but I haven't done. Or I just lifted what I thought I couldn't lift. And it's that radiance.
Yes.
That you go, wow.
For our listeners out there, what is it that you really want to do that you haven't done? Go and do it.
Absolutely. Do it, say it, be it.
Oh my God, there's another tagline.
Full of taglines today. I'm on a roll.
So, Trish, if people want to listen to your TED Talk, what's it called?
It's called Grit, the Role of Perseverance in Success. Pretty long title.
I like it. I haven't listened to it. I'm going to do that on my way home. I'm going to check it out. And if people want to get in touch with you for coaching, for training, just to be totally motivated like I've been, how can they do that?
My Facebook profile, fortunately, unfortunately, is public. So just look for me, Tricia Yap, YAP. You can contact me through there. I'm always on Messenger. I've got an Instagram, which is pretty much my name without full stop. Just go Tricia YAP and reach out to me there. And even if you don't want to train, you just want to have a coffee or a chat or
be inspired.
Yeah. Or you might be going through a difficult time and need someone who is completely, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm just a shoulder to cry on and so a sounding board. Go for it. I've had lots of women reach out to me post my TED Talk because they've been going through either similar experiences or challenges. And I mean, that's something that I feel really passionate about is helping other women empower themselves and for them to pay it forward. So yeah, even if it's a small coffee or conversation or even a WhatsApp chat, please do, because remember that you're not alone, first of all. Everyone goes through a shit point in life where maybe it is, even as a stranger, reach out to you. You know, if you're facing a very dark place and you're thinking very dark thoughts, know that you're not alone and there are people who care, even if they don't know you at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. There are. And it's not always going to be as dark as at this moment. And there are ways out of it. So,
Absolutely.
You know, reach out and ask for help.
And if anything, I mean, find your peace
tribe.
And find your tribe.
Yeah.
And you know what? There is a lot of stress relief in putting some gloves on and just punching the crap out of something.
Awesome. Please don't make that your partner or your mate.
A punching bag.
But yeah, and fitness can, it releases endorphins and it's good for the soul.
Yeah, whether it's walking, dancing, yogaing, beating something up, lifting a weight, just come in, do it. Go somewhere. There's plenty of gyms around Hong Kong, not just mine. Plenty of amazing coaches as well in this city. I think we're really blessed to have a really great community.
This city is full of amazing people, and that's what I'm learning.
Exactly. Yeah. So go in there and just do something that you never maybe thought you wouldn't do, or if you've come off the wagon, jump back on it.
Yeah, awesome. Trish, thank you so much for meeting me today. It's been absolutely amazing talking to you. Thanks so much. I'm going home to eat mindfully and then go for a walk for 20 minutes.
5, 10, 15, 20. Thank you.
Hi, Confidants. I want to tell you about my Patreon page. I've joined Patreon in the hope of getting sponsorship for my Hong Kong Confidential podcast. Patreon is a great way for my listeners to get on board and sponsor me with monthly payments, and that goes towards my production costs and rewards for my members. If you're interested in checking out my Patreon page, please go to patreon.com and search up Jules Hannaford or Hong Kong Confidential. I would really appreciate you visiting my page. So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it? I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you.
Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.